You ready to do this thing?
Oh, yeah.
Let's get into it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sweaty Casuals, the podcast brought to you by the Snowflake Sanctuary Discord server. This is the podcast where we talk about the games we love to play from the State of Rank system to our thoughts on the newest sensations and everything in between. My name is Zach. These are my co-hosts, Tyler and Knox, and we're going to be your guides as we traverse Elo Hell. Small reminder, we do swear, so viewer discretion is advised. Today, we are going to touch base on the Palworld debacle, which, if you've heard of the game, great. If you haven't heard of the game, that's okay too. Don't worry about it. I think our discussion today is going to be way more important on the realm of all the other things that this could possibly do damage to. So we're going to just start with that. So, our icebreaker, real easy. What's your experience with Palworld?
Yeah, I was really into it right away. I got it right when it came out. That's all I wanted to do. It's survival based. It's fun. It's like, I forget how I described it when I was playing it. It was like a Fortnite meets Pokemon meets Minecraft meets whatever. Had a ton of fun with it. Played it for like 3 weeks. And we even had a server for our Discord community at a time which the game was not built for that yet. It was very tough to play, very laggy. But we did that for about 3 weeks. I had a super good time, and I haven't touched the game since.
You guys seemed like you were enjoying it a lot.
Yeah, super fun.
I wasn't here when you were playing
February.
Oh, you did buy it?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't
yeah,
ask.
yeah. No, I got like 20 hours in the game.
Okay. That's a fair amount of time.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I was never a Pokemon kid, so this was different for me.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm sure is ironic that I bring up that correlation.
What, that franchise?
Sorry. Oh.
There was also a pal named after me, so that was pretty cool.
Was
yeah.
it?
Yeah,
there was a
pal.
pal. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I have 16.8 hours. So, right along with you.
I have no experience with it, in terms of actually playing it. I watched y'all play it, and said, huh, that's interesting. Wish I had money right now. However, when the game came out originally, Nox, you and I discussed doing a topic, doing an episode on Palworld for a while.
Yeah, we brought it up.
It kept coming on and off our radar.
Right, because we brought it up right when the game came out, because it was a sensation upon launch. Like, people were playing it everywhere. But I think a lot of people had the same exact experience that Tyler and I did, in which we played it for 3 weeks, said, cool. And then remember all the games that I mentioned that this is like a meld of? Everyone went back to those games because they're better games that highlight those specific mechanics.
Mm.
It was definitely a lower budget game. Super fun. It's a good little time suck. But we brought it up, and when that 3-week cliff kind of everybody dropped off for a while, we were like, well, is it worth making an episode anymore? Because people weren't as crazy about it as when it first dropped. It has come up a few times since then because of the, not to spoil our bigger conversation, legal actions against it, for its shockingly similar elements to Pokemon. And so it's come off on and off our radar for a while, and how to talk about the subject and how to do it in a way that is still entertaining and productive around a game that's not as widely played as it was on release.
Taco, I know you and I haven't really touched base on this much.
What do you mean?
No. Just we haven't talked about Palworld at all.
No. I mean, it may have come up in us just talking about random, I think it comes up more like when we talk about like different connections and stuff like that to the game.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So
But yeah.
one of the reasons why we kept discussing bringing up Palworld is my experience was actually super worthwhile to the original discussion that was brought up around it, and I think we should definitely touch base on that. So we've mentioned here on the channel, like I work in film. One of the things that I do deal with a lot is licensing and copyright, and particularly fair use arguments. And I actually I'll go do a whole big deep dive into Japanese fair use because that is not a thing. It straight up does not exist. But the thing that Palworld seemed to so egregiously do was there were things within character designs that you were like, yeah, if you look at what is it, Anubis looks like Lucario. Just straight up. There was an Eevee ripoff. There were a whole bunch of little ones. I'm not going to remember all of them right now.
Is Luxio a Pokemon? Or is that
Yeah,
a pal?
Luxray. Yeah, and Luxray's the PAL equivalent looks really scarily close.
Yeah. They were all direct, very taken from Pokemon, and I can tell you that as somebody who played Palworld before they touched a Pokemon game. I went and started to play Arceus again, and I went, seen these guys before. Where have I
Yeah.
seen them before? And it wasn't in another Pokemon game.
The one that was a little bit more egregious was there was like a few models where it was like, oh no, these are like almost vertice for vertice the same. So that was a little spicy, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
But real quick, what are y'all's thoughts on fair use in video games? Do you guys understand what fair use is? Let's start there, because that's such a misunderstood thing to begin with.
Yeah, it's being able, correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding.
Yeah.
It's being able to take somebody else's content work and transform it, to comment on it, to create something that is brand new from the content that existed before.
That's
Right?
actually a really great way of putting it.
Yeah,
It's
this
your
is a
own
big topic on
artistic
YouTube.
spin.
It's not just artistic spin, but that is a big one.
Yeah.
So, like, there are a lot of things that get fair used that you wouldn't normally think of. Fair use gets used in a lot of weird ways. One of them is actually to skirt licensing. So there's X amount of material that you can use that you can be like, no, it doesn't seriously detract from that piece of work, and my work stands on its own, so therefore it's fair usable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's the same way that every single commentary YouTuber you've ever watched that is making a video about somebody else's video or somebody else's thing, that's fair use, because yes, they're using the work of the other person for their work, but they are commentating over it to make something new, which has always been a highly debated topic. I've been a big fan of like Curtis Connor, Drew Gooden, and Danny Gonzalez, who are 3 ex-Viners gone YouTubers that use fair use in every single video they have ever done.
I think the other big one to mention is React content. React content is huge, and some of it is really, really great, and some of it is literally you're watching a guy watch a movie.
Yep. Y'all ever seen, what is it, SS Sniper Wolf? S Sniper, whatever the hell her name is?
Yes. Yeah.
If you're a Jax
know
Films enjoyer, you know exactly who she is. And if you don't know who Jax Films is either, go check out that whole saga.
I think
That's
if you're just a
crazy.
guy on the internet, you know who SS Sniper Wolf
Well,
is. But...
that's not my point. But
I wasn't gonna say that. I was gonna say if you have your hand in YouTube, because of there was a whole bunch of stuff with her.
well, she was the one that she showed up at Jax Films' house.
Yeah.
Unannounced and like doxed him.
I had no idea who she was until that whole debacle.
Oh my god. Crazy lead up to it.
Yeah. But I'm sure you guys are both familiar with DMCA, or at least a heard the term. Unlike DMCA is a law. That is something that Congress has passed and said this is a rule we should follow. Fair use is in our Constitution. It is built in literally into our legal system, and along with what's the other one? Copyright is also built into our Constitution, and that's done for a particular reason. One of the big things with copyright is like work is always kind of going to be at least somewhat derivative. So there's always been goals to be like, yeah, at some point this should become public knowledge. But Disney has decided that we don't deserve that anymore. That's another conversation, though.
We
Gotta
freaked
respect
Steamboat
the
Willie.
mouse.
I think in many ways, Palworld has good fair use arguments. I think the things with the models are not great. But when we look at the one that looks like Luxray, if they had gone with a slightly different color scheme, even a little bit, I think they could have easily been like, it's a lion.
Right.
And nobody would have made any arguments. The Lucario Anubis connection there, there's only so many ways you can make a dog who stands on 4 legs and looks kind of like Seth from ancient Egypt.
I mean, that one too, you can there's a an animal in Animal Crossing that looks very similar as well. That's Anka, who's I don't think she's technically a dog, but same thought. That was actually who I connected it to first. So
But they
there's
ain't gonna go after that because that's a Nintendo game.
We're going to get there.
Yeah.
yeah.
So the first thing to clear up is the lawsuit that Nintendo is bringing against Pocket Pals. I'm not going to remember the name of the company. Pocket Pair. If one of you guys could look that up really quick. Thank you.
It'd be on their Steam page, right?
It would be on their Steam page. Pocket something, I want to say.
Pocket Pair.
Pocket Pair. Okay. The lawsuit that Nintendo is bringing against Pocket Pair has nothing to do with the PALs. It has nothing to do with their design, nothing to do with how they look, nothing to do with any similarities that they may have to Pokemon. Instead, I spent part of today going through the patent that Nintendo has filed and are currently suing Pocket Pair for. The patent, which I'll include a link down in the doobly-doo if anybody wants to do their own research. The original is in Japanese. I used the Google Translate, but the pictures in the Japanese one are actually super worthwhile because they explain some of it very clearly. Are specifically for using an analog stick to look at an entity, press a button, which then launches an object and changes that identity to being owned by you.
So Pokeballs.
Yes.
And the ability to later throw another object and have that entity battle on your behalf.
So they're suing over the concept of Pokemon and Pokemon battle.
I don't think that they're suing yet. They're trying to get
They
a
are
patent.
suing. No. They have the patent.
Oh, they
Patent's
have the
granted.
patent. Oh.
We're going to get into that part later because that's where it even gets crazier.
You're telling me there's no other games with that mechanic?
There are.
Okay. Just checking.
Yeah. That's the hard part of this.
So they're going after the one thing that they have rights over.
They've chosen to have rights over. We're going to get...
It's backwards, but they must not have had a strong enough case with the character models. Something somewhere
my thought.
was wrong, so they had to take another approach in. which is why it's happening now, because it took them a while to figure it out.
It did. It's taken them. Gosh, we're recording
6
this.
months.
Yeah,
7
6
months.
later. 7 months. 6.5, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember what day it came out on.
January 19th, 2024.
Oh, even further.
Oh.
8
8
to 9.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We're recording this last week of September. So, how do you guys feel about that? That because Nintendo has gone and gotten a patent for this, no game has an ability where you can be like, here is my creature.
Palworld is the only game that I've experienced that does that outside of Nintendo.
I do think it interesting that they specifically stated spherical device, because the original way that this was explained to me was a lot more vague and it was a lot scarier.
I think the other big thing
Yeah,
about
because
it
the
is
concept of throwing, trapping, and then releasing on your side, essentially in the vaguest terms, that's scary if they have a hold on that.
The way it was originally
Specifically a spherical object, if that's the technical terms that are being used, then that's less scary.
Mhm.
Because like Tyler was starting to say, I don't know of any direct Pokemon ripoffs or of anything that has that exact mechanic, you know?
at least we know that our Pokemon Minecraft mods are safe because there's no spheres in Minecraft.
Big brain. Big brain.
That's interesting
Yeah.
because so there's been a lot
Yeah.
of those mods have been up and then taken down and then come back and then been taken down again. And it always seems like it's usually like when they get a cease and desist, somebody says, "Oh yeah, maybe we should probably stop." But I think the most recent one is Cobblemon, and that one specifically does have a square Pokeball.
I mean,
Can't come get off our lawn. Let us have things we like.
The other thing I'm going to mention is that they do say specifically that the entity must be a creature that gets
so when I
assigned to the player
capture one of
identity.
so Zach, since you have not played Palworlds, Knox,
Mhm.
you know about this. This was a fantastic discovery during our playthrough. There are enemies that basically like try to enslave the pals.
Which is definitely not what we were doing. Anyway.
No, but the thing we learned is that you could bring those enemies down to health, and they're other humans. You could bring them down to health and capture them with the pal spheres. That was dope. So
I'm not versed enough in the Pokemon manga to know if that's actually happened with Pokemon, but it sounds like that would be in the Pokemon manga. The manga, from what I've been told of it, is it's basically just a list. Somebody took a list of the Geneva Convention and went through it and said, "What are we not supposed to do?"
I'm not
and then
gonna
put
lie.
it in a manga.
Jujutsu Kaisen's manga ended, so hearing the word manga is kind of triggering to me right now because Gege
get
is a piece
over
of shit.
No one cares. Just kidding.
We're not even. Maybe we'll talk about that towards the end, just so I can rant about it. But
The first thing I want to point out is that
No plot
I was happy to dive into the patent and clear up some stuff, because when it was originally explained to me, it was just, oh yeah, it's for using a stick and a button press to throw an object. And if that was the patent, think of how many games would just be wrecked right now.
Anything with fishing. Anything with a fishing
anything with a
mechanic.
grenade. Junkrat would become unviable. Oh, actually.
Roadhog?
no, because Junkrat shoots.
No. Yes, but it's an arc.
No.
I don't. But it's not the art of throwing. It's
You'd have to get rid of that emote.
Delete 'em.
Oh, you mean like the fucking or the Olympic one, the Summer Games?
May Blizzard would go away.
Delete the game.
I feel like there's a lot
Anyway.
of good things that come out. Let Nintendo take the patent.
Call of Duty would finally be over.
God, man, all these things.
No more
Or it'll
sticky
just be
grenades in
owned by
Halo.
Nintendo.
Yeah, no grenades in Halo. Which, so again, just to clear up, the patent does not include that.
Excuse me.
This is a what if scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and like I said earlier, this doesn't feel like Nintendo feel like just because Nintendo, in theory, could win this legal case because of their patent, they're not actively going after other games as of right now, right?
Oh, this is a chosen battle for sure.
This is the hill they're I'm coughing. This is the hill they're dying on. Because they've been after this since before the release. Because this is obviously a Pokemon ripoff.
It is.
But I still stand by the fact that, for example, I'm looking at the Steam page right now to illustrate my point that this game is not nearly as played as much as it was that first month. In all time, the game has 276,000 reviews. Great, it's a lot of people. It's a lot of reviews.
Yeah.
In the recent reviews section, it's only 3,000.
3,000 is still pretty high for recent.
It's still
reviews.
respectable.
For recent?
Yeah. That
'Kay.
means there's at least, I mean, even if you count 50% of those as new players.
Sure. My point being is that, and maybe that's not the best thing to point at for proof. My point being is that Nintendo is a multi-billion-dollar company, most likely. Multi-million at least.
Multi-million at least. I don't know if they've hit the billion mark, but
They're a big company. Probably I'm going to stop making assumptions. One of the biggest gaming companies in the world.
Oh, that for sure.
In my opinion, and I understand that I'm not Nintendo, this is not threatening to you.
No, it really isn't.
This is a little game that people are playing. And if people are playing Palworld, it made me want to play Pokemon. If anything, it got me interested in the creatures to go play the actual Pokemon games. Like, I don't think it doesn't have to exist. I think they can be symbiotic, but that's just me.
Which Pokemon Company and Nintendo in general have both been they don't seem to understand how much value advertising actually has at the end of the day. Are you both aware about how Nintendo was so anti-streaming for so long?
Well, I do know it's a bitch and a half to stream on a Wii or a Switch, or it used to be.
Mhm.
Capture cards are hard to get for people.
They were.
And streaming, so making YouTube videos specifically, streaming is a whole nother situation. Like, I know for me, I can hook up, I'm not so very smart all the time at tech stuff either. I can hook up my Switch to my second monitor. It doesn't do me any good though, because I don't have volume. I don't have speakers. Like, there's so many barriers there of like, it's meant to be couch played, and it's not meant to be streamed. It's not meant to be made.
Well, the bigger issue is that when Nintendo was like going and handing out takedown requests to people, being
streaming
like,
their games.
Stream our game.
Well, they obviously chilled the hell out because the amount of VODs I've watched of people playing Animal Crossing is unreal. You know how many villager hunts I've watched? That got streamed all the time.
They've gotten better as time has gone on, but this is particularly, I'm thinking back literally like 10 years ago right now. Like early Switch days.
That was, yeah. Oh my god, I'm old.
Yeah, the Switch is also old.
The Switch is still new. That's still a new console.
Is it though?
Mm-hmm.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. I don't think it's 10 years old yet. I thought that was a 2016 drop.
I believe it is a 2016 drop. But like
2017, even younger.
we've brought up on the show the company Rooster Teeth. Rooster Teeth wanted to make Switch content, and it ended up being such a headache that they just stopped. It just wasn't worth it.
That's why I don't. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Switch wasn't yeah, people bought the Switch right away for sure. Mario Kart 8 was a good game. Things that came out with it. Splatoon was an okay game.
I want to say something. I just have to double check that I'm not going to spew nonsense into.
I feel like the Switch didn't take off until like a year or so after, when you started to actually get people advertising the games.
It did take a little bit. The big one was Zelda.
Yes, Breath of the Wild is really what took it.
Which was a launch title.
Was it?
Mhm.
I just remember getting it probably 9 months after release. And it was Mario Kart 8, and I forget what else I bought for it. Mario Party.
I'm
Things
so
like
sorry.
that.
I'm looking down.
Oh, no, I bought it through 2 years after release. So there were quite a few games out at that point. But anyway.
So, based on the units sold,
that's what I'm literally looking for. Please tell me.
20 million. So they're looking at about $461 million in gross revenue. That's including all the extra stuff and stuff like that. If
Here's
you're
what I was
looking
actually
just
looking
base
for.
ticket sales, it's like 18,000 or 418 million.
According to Statistica, which if they're reputable, I'm hoping so. They seem at least somewhat legit. The Switch is the second best selling console of all time.
It better be right behind the The Wii is the best console of all time, so they're wrong. But
the Wii was always a weird one, because the Wii does really well for people who want to play games together. It wasn't
it's a family
as great
console.
A console. It was, but it wasn't as good for single player content.
Correct, but I was very good at Mario Super Bros. And Mario Super Sluggers, which if you're a fan of this podcast, you know that Mario Super Sluggers is the best game of all time. And don't forget it. I was actually thinking about that game today. I was watching someone play backyard baseball and was like, I gotta load up Super Sluggers again. But anyway. Steering back towards Nintendo being dicks.
Also, Knox, to bring up, because earlier you were talking about what they're taking. I went and where's it at? Hold up, I just had it here.
It's one of these tabs.
Insert
there it
loading
is.
Music.
They are looking at about 15,000 active users as of right now, and in the last 24 hours, they're still just shy of 30,000 users today. Their all-time peak was 2.1 million users active at one time.
I'm pretty
sure Palworld is still pretty active.
I was gonna say I'm pretty sure that's more people who have played it in the last 24 hours than Concord got during its entire.
29,000 people playing it just today is more than what Rainbow Six Siege has had probably today. Let's look it up. Granted, this is just based off Steam.
I need
a reference mark.
A reference point, because to me that doesn't sound like that many people, to be so honest. 29,000 people is smaller than the size of the city that I live in.
I took it back. Rainbow Six Siege must be on a high.
I don't think 29,000 people is that much.
They just had a sale last week.
They have a sale every week.
I know they do.
My point being is when 2.1 million all at once was peak time, right? Best all time, had a really good day, probably close to release. Or close,
8 months ago.
Yeah. 29,000 compared to 2.1 million is not even in the same realm of the league.
No wonder we haven't gotten a new Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto peaked at 153,000 active users today on Steam.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still
And
stupidly
GTA
late.
is
Keep in mind
not
that's
even like an
including RP and stuff.
sure.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Palworld's dead and that no one's playing it anymore. My point being is that this is not. I don't think that
This was
no,
not worth Nintendo's effort.
no time or effort.
They're not
If
going to
I
make
were a
money off
diehard
this.
Pokemon fan, I know these are different departments, but it's the principle of it. I would want Nintendo to be putting their time, money, and resources into new Pokemon games or
Or,
into
you
new
know, making sure
games.
the current ones actually play correctly because there's still
Right,
bugs in Scarlet and Violet and Arceus.
right. Not
All right,
suing this small
comparable.
company.
Elder Scrolls V Skyrim had at a peak of 29,000 today. Lethal Company at a peak of 25,000.
And I would actually, Lethal Company is that's a great comparison. That's exactly where I would have put it in my head.
Unturned at a peak of 20. Who the fuck still playing Unturned?
What the hell is that?
29,000 people apparently.
We're 22,000. We're gonna get back to that later, Knox, because that may be
No.
a new addiction for you.
No, I can't. I don't need more right now. I'm gonna be
It's
so real with
Daisy,
you.
but blocky like Minecraft. It's so much fun.
They just got me into Dead by Daylight. I can't take more.
That's true. What's Dead by Daylight at?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. It's such a straight. I understand the principle of the hill that they're dying on. I get it. They ripped off.
54,000.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Lower than I thought. They straight up ripped off Nintendo's work and the Pokemon Company's work. 100%. No one's denying that. No one's playing Palworld defending this little company for saying that this is all original.
Oh no.
Like no one's saying that. But the fact that we are going the back, like in through the back door to sue this company for probably all that they're worth.
All right. It's time for the kicker.
Oh, great. There's more. You told me I was going to be upset tonight, and here we are.
I real quick, before you get into that kicker, I want to make this known as well. This is not something new for Pocket Pair. Because 4 years ago, they released Craftopia, which was a Zelda-inspired Minecraft game. So this is not them ripping from Pokemon.
So this is their second jab at Nintendo.
Well, no, because they released Palworld like almost 10 years ago as a free game in its alpha state, and it was called something else. And then they re-released it as the game we know today.
Yeah,
they've only got
really
like 5 games.
That patent was
Craftopia do look like Zelda. That do look like Zelda. Holy shit.
The patent in question was filed on July 30th of this year.
So it's been under wraps for 2 months. Oh, the patent was filed, not this.
The patent was filed, not the suit. The patent. It was granted on September 4th.
Yeah, so they're back. They're going in the back door to take this company down. Yeah, this is the schoolyard bully beaten down on the little kid. This is terrible.
And the worst part of it is, Nintendo has never lost a lawsuit that I'm aware of.
No, because they have time, money, and resources.
Mm-hmm.
Pocket Pair does not. And once again, like I said, this is not me sitting here defending Pocket Pair, that they've made it completely original games that are not inspired by Nintendo or taken directly from them. But at the same time, this is not the same playing field.
You mad?
Yeah, I think Nintendo needs to put their dick back in their pants. But
they do. Tyler, what are your feelings right now?
I don't think it's gonna be a win either way. Because if Nintendo wins, this allows them to go after other people for other random bullshit. Because then they'll have a whole case against them or on their side. If they lose, I think it's really going to open up the market to more like more
I
of
think they
these
need to lose.
games.
And I want you to hear the argument why.
No, I agree. I think they need to lose too, because I think I'm not a Pokemon person. And coming from me, I enjoyed Palworld because I feel like it was everything I didn't get out of a Pokemon game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of what Palworld went. And that's where having these, direct rip-off games is not necessarily a bad thing. But from both sides, it lets it's either going to let in the ability for major corporations to overly defend and control their games and stuff like this, or it's going to overly open up the market to rip-offs.
If
I don't think anyone
Nintendo
wins in this
wins,
scenario.
if Nintendo wins, you are setting a precedent for small game companies. You're discouraging them from
Right.
making games.
Let's take it back a step. So we did a whole thing earlier where we were talking about, okay, this was misunderstood at first, and it was, hey, this isn't about specifically throwing a spherical object and capturing a creature and that creature being owned by you and being able to send it out in battle. It was just using an analog stick to throw an item. If this patent is successfully defended, if it is something that gets established as case law, game mechanics can now be patented.
That's all we need Ubisoft to get their hands on.
Or any company.
Specifically Ubisoft.
I mean,
no, it's going to shut down. It's going to shut down small game making.
It's not going to just shut down small companies. I mean, what happens when a company says, I have the patent now for
Reinhardt
FPS?
Shield. No, I don't think they'll allow that. I don't, and here's why. That's like UMG being like, we own the copyright to making music and producing it.
And yet they'll still try.
Yeah, they'll still try. But they're not going to get anywhere. I'm not going to get it because I heard some shit. We're not a red string podcast,
and we're not lawyers. None of this is legal advice.
Right.
I just heard some shit about the CEO of UMG. We ain't gonna talk about it.
What Tyler said, I think, is a perfect example. Mechanics in a game, Reinhardt Shield.
Yeah.
No other FPS game can have a big shield like that in front of them. No one else can have a deployable turret like Torb does.
Yep.
No one else can blink through time like Tracer does. Like, that gets scary because now you have companies guarding their only assets. We're going to get this exact same games from them every single time they release because it's the patents that they own.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you have a completely unique thought, which most of us barely have, you're not making anything new.
Let's bring it back one more time to our earlier discussion. Fair use.
Yeah.
The point of fair use, as it was
well designed today, by the way. This is a great layout. I'm loving the
totally
floor.
On purpose.
This is going well.
Fair use in its original inception was, so it comes from English law, and it was supposed to be so that people who make media, art, in today's world are not restricted to past generations to draw ideas from. Do you guys remember a couple of years ago when Pride and Prejudice and Zombies came out? And that kind of... Did you not hear of this, Tyler?
Nope.
Okay. Somebody wrote a book, and it's called Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Oh, that's why
it is Pride and Prejudice with zombies. There is nothing crazy or bizarre about it. It's just, here we're going to retell a story with a new twist. Do you know why it was told as Pride and Prejudice and not a newer book? Because Pride and Prejudice doesn't have copyright protection anymore. Spaceballs had to go seek approval from George Lucas to say, we want to do a spoof on this. Is that okay? Yes, just don't make toys. That was literally the agreement. And that's why there's no Spaceballs merch.
That's why they have a whole bit about it in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great bit. I can't wait. The anniversary of that movie's coming up.
It is.
They're gonna
Never
get
seen that
and A New
one.
Hope.
You've never seen Spaceballs?
No,
We may have to do a little watch party. I
that's
love
fine.
that
I
movie.
feel like I need to see that at some point.
That's a good one.
The point of fair use was not just to protect certain organizations from commenting. The big one is news. If you can't talk about a piece of art, if you can't have a picture of a piece of art that's, extremely controversial, then how are news agencies supposed to report on it? Like, there needs to be an amount of transparency with any of these things. But I feel like this type of a patent dispute, I'm going to put dispute in heavy quotes here, is really dangerous because it means that all of us are going to end up losing because everyone is going to be less iterative. It's going to be the fear of, well, who is going to sue me because I decided that Ryan Shield?
Where would that put, the new Marvel game coming out?
Mm-hmm. Is Rivals still not technically out?
I don't know. I haven't played it.
I don't think so.
I haven't checked. It's been a hot minute.
No, it's a scary pipeline if precedent is set now.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I think they may win.
Japanese law is not in their favor. So, as I think I mentioned it earlier, Japanese law does not have fair use in any way, shape, or form. It does not exist as a concept over there. Everything is licensed. And it's why this is in Japanese court, not in the U.S. or anywhere else, or where the majority of sales were.
This isn't even in the U.S. court?
No, it's in Japanese court.
Oh. I mean, so it won't affect us hugely then.
Well, it's going to...
It's just going to affect the sales in Japan.
Yes and no. The thing is, patents, to my understanding, are pretty well... I don't want to say they're well respected internationally. They are, as long as they don't have a military application.
You seen Silicon Valley?
Or it's China. That's a whole separate category, though.
Comedy show. Let's not take our knowledge based from Silicon Valley.
No, but here's the thing. Silicon
It comments
Valley,
a lot on big things.
It does, and this is a show that literally got a bunch of Stanford grads to do the math on certain things just so that the writing of the joke was accurate. So they're not, far off of being world accurate. But I mean, like, there's a whole thing where one of the characters, Jin Yang, all he does in America is take ideas that he finds in Silicon Valley and then turns them over in China. So like the show is all based around this company called Pied Piper, right? So he takes their idea, steals all their information, and goes to China and makes it Pied Piper China. And it's because they weren't a global company.
Right.
So I think that's really where we're going to see the difference here.
Right. But the other problem is even though it is Japanese law and it is still in Japanese courts and it would in theory affect Japanese people and only within the contents of their country. The problem is that Nintendo is not just a Japanese company. Nintendo has reaches everywhere. So now the problem stands is that while we don't have the same court system and the same laws and protections, or we have greater protections for things like this, what's stopping Microsoft or any of these Ubisoft, any of these bigger companies in the US from trying to do the same thing that Nintendo's doing, and maybe one of them wins. Maybe one of them does get a patent for it.
I think
it's setting a
'cause
precedent
it's a
for
different government.
Again,
but-
everybody borrows from each other.
Right.
Most of our laws are based off of English laws.
And it's one of those things that like it doesn't. Yeah, I know I see where you're coming from, and I hope that is true. But I could easily see this being like starting to skirt over other places.
Right.
and follow precedent.
It may take like 10 years. But
But we
that's where
shouldn't have this happen, period.
yeah.
Really quick, I did just want to confirm this is in Tokyo District Court,
Okay.
according to Nintendo's official press release.
So the worst case scenario that happens right now that's like going to directly affect everyone is that and not like some future based thing is Nintendo wins and Palworld is no longer sold in Japan, or it's sold and all the profits go to Nintendo.
Yes. That
However,
would probably be
they've
the
got it
most
set up.
likely shortcome.
But you're not going to see anything change in the US.
Short term. Not instantly.
No.
The other thing is, anytime you're talking about a lawsuit, you're talking months to years.
I also don't think this is the one thing about video games is you don't fuck with their community. I mean, we saw this back in 2018 when states tried to make it so that digital video games were taxed. Most of the US
They
states
are
don't.
taxed.
Nope. Most states are not taxed.
I pay tax.
I pay tax.
You pay tax. I don't pay tax.
I pay tax.
Oklahoma and California are the only two states I can speak on because those are the two states that I have lived in. Every single time I buy a digital video game, it does not tax it.
California,
A physical copy is different.
No, every time I buy a game on Steam, it's like 50 cents.
You
Yeah,
get
because
taxed.
Yeah.
I've been taxed in California as well.
I'm gonna go and I'm gonna.
It might have changed. That's a whole nother thing where a lot of companies were trying to skirt and be like, no, because it's online, it's not technically being sold in the state, and that came down like 15 years ago when the government really started to push on that one. We don't need to get into that topic too heavily.
The whole point I was trying to make is that you don't fuck with the gaming community. So if
I think the
it
bigger
starts
one that you could
happening where
probably
like shitty companies like if Ubisoft starts saying, "Hey, we own the rights to the specific barricading technique that they use in Rainbow Six Siege," or Blizzard starts saying, "We own the claim to Tracer's blink mechanic," I don't think anyone who games will let that shit slide.
and they shouldn't. I think probably
But
some
it
better
doesn't matter what
examples-
we think.
I think some better examples would be review bombing and
Right.
the positive effects that it has had. We could do a whole episode on review bombing. Probably should do a whole episode on review bombing.
Shout out to everyone who review bombed Sony.
Yeah, and like PlayStation still has not fully reversed course.
No, but we made an effect.
But it had a big, noticeable effect. And it was basically the entire community saying, this is not okay.
The problem that we get into here is, you don't mess with the gaming community. Like, there's a lot of us, we can make a difference on that, all that good stuff. The problem is that a lot of this is out of our hands.
Mm-hmm.
I am not taxed on Wolfenstein. I just want to make that a
court. Oh, good for you.
That must be nice.
A court system is not going to be swayed. You can't review bomb a court system.
No.
Like, these decisions are going to get made based on law and based on a court's decision to interpret the request versus the law as it stands. So that's the scary part of we can go after Activision Blizzard for something. We can go after Sony for something. We can go after these companies directly. We cannot necessarily have that. While we can still, we have protections to petition the government, all that good stuff, as US citizens. But we can't have that same effect in the way that we do now on the court system and the decisions that they make around patents, around lawsuits, things like that. So that's the scary part.
My thing is I feel like our patent system would be different from Japan's. Because look at it, look at it this way. If I design a game in Blender and I use the mechanic or whatever, I'm using to code the mechanics of the video game, where does it stop? And I think that's what, if
it is a good
were
question.
to come up in the US, where's the judge going to choose that it stops at? You know,
And it would be something that would definitely be open to debate. We're not lawyers. I wish we could have gotten a lawyer to be on this episode because I think it would have been super
would have
worthwhile.
been way too expensive.
I took my
Yeah.
LSAT once.
Did you?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
158, baby.
I just that like if it were to come to stateside, I think like let's say Blizzard. I don't know how video games are developed because I don't develop video games. I don't have the brain capacity to do it. But let's
We
say
should
a company
we
like
should get a
Blizzard
developer
uses
on.
like Python or some shit to develop a game mechanic, and then they write a patent on that, right? Where what's to say Python can't come out and go, "Oh, we own the right to that patent because you used our program," or "We own the right to that specific code," or something like that. You know, it's only going to fall deeper down until it hits the bottom somewhere, and I think any judge is going to look at it and go, "Nope, you have to prove that they directly ripped your code, which is already a thing that happens out here."
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, okay, they didn't rip your code, they rewrote their new stuff, then it is their own.
Yeah, you're talking in the most like in the best case scenario, for sure. That's in my
Yeah,
in my way of thinking, the correct thing that should happen. The correct thing does not always happen, and that is the scary part. That if precedents start getting set, there is no promises that everyone makes the same logical decision that we are coming to here.
we also I'm just fighting for the fact of I don't think the outcome of this lawsuit in Japan is going to affect us in any way because I can't see any judge actually looking into this and going, well, let's look at what they did in Japan.
Why
Like I
wouldn't
said,
they?
patents are usually pretty well,
It's the only
in
case
most
that
cases,
exists
are
based
kind of,
like that is
I don't think that's true because
with the exception
I
of
don't
China.
know.
China's a whole separate category, and that has a different set
Yeah.
of connotations. Um, I think this is something that we really do need to pay attention to because if they get any amount of leeway, we are setting the precedent that mechanics in video games can be patented. And that companies can choose to license them out or to retain them. And in both cases, nobody wins in that scenario. It does not help innovation. It does not help new games come to
I agree.
fruition.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I think Pocket Pair was not in the right here. This is
No.
not us defending Pocket Pair. This
No.
is Palworld was definitely trampling on ground that they probably should have thought more about how they were doing it. Just because they got away with Craftpedia?
Craftopia.
Craftopia.
Not even close to the same player base, but
Yeah, but even if you look at that as the example and say we got away with that, well, we can probably get away with this. You should have thought twice.
Well, it sounds like they did get away with it.
Yeah, but again, you should reevaluate constantly.
Yeah, it sounds like Nintendo striking twice because the first hit didn't. It's a little bit of metagaming, on their part.
The other thing that
Yeah,
hands and fist does piss me off is the fact that this patent was filed long after the game came out.
yeah.
I don't think this patent would stand up in U.S. court. I'm gonna be so real with you. I think if they tried to file this patent in the U.S., it would get thrown back almost immediately.
And maybe I'm being hella pessimistic. I might be. We're viewing this from a lens of we are people that play these video games, and that we understand the nuance and we understand the repercussions if these things start getting protected.
Mhm.
The average US judge does not think about this in the same way we do. What they are seeing is a company who invented a mechanic for a piece of work that they have created and they want to protect it. Why wouldn't you let them?
U.S.
Blizzard
law has
comes out
also
with
been very, very particular, and that there's concept of spirit of the law versus letter of the law.
I also think that
We are a letter of the law country.
I think
The spirit of the law does not really matter.
Video games are going to go down a different road because we're getting newer generations in those positions. Generations that are going to understand this.
I wish I was.
I said the same thing about Super Bowl commercials 5 years ago. So Super Bowl commercials are so garbage because we've got the same old people writing the same old jokes.
The people in charge of marketing are not the same age as the judges that matter right now. So give
No,
that one 20 years, and then I
but
will agree
I
with
don't
you.
see this affecting the U.S. for at least another 10 years.
I wouldn't. I don't think it'd be that long.
You think it'd be less?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh my god. If this is successful, I don't even want to see the storm of patents that are going to try to get filed. It is going to be insane. People are going to try. Because the minute
honestly, I would not be surprised if there are already people working to file patents.
The minute that Activision Blizzard's like, oh, our new hero venture has a mechanic where she can dig through the ground and pop back up. No one in FPS MOBA games has done this yet, even though they have. League of Legends has. But in theory, I know.
It was filed retroactively.
In theory, they look and they say, no one's done it exactly how we've done it, but we want to patent this. Well, now no playable character you ever see again will be able to do what Venture does. That's the slippery slope.
That was my first thought, Zach, actually, when I saw this was, how are they going to do that considering the game's release was before? I think what they may do is they may grandfather the base game in and null and void the patent for that, but any DLC or any subsequent game afterwards.
So, to wrap us up, because we do need to start wrapping up.
Do we?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Pokemon is based off other games. There were other creature collector titles that came out before Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
Pokemon borrowed heavily from many of the mechanics in those games.
All of big corporations are just hypocrites.
Including, there are some pretty rough sprite ripoffs in the same way that Palworld has. Nintendo has no right to be the bully here. And the only reason they even have the ability to do so is because they've been lucky enough to be successful. This course of action that they've decided on now is going to be damaging. And I don't know if it's to them or to us or to everyone.
Let it be damaging to Nintendo. They can take a hit.
Yeah,
they're fine.
Let's hope so.
Anyway, wrap it up.
We should move into our real world.
Pocket Pair, stop making games like this. Go make something else.
Keep making games. Keep making titles that
keep
are
making
better than
games.
The corporations.
Stop doing it in ways that just blatantly rip off other people.
Taking character models. That's all we ask.
Yeah, that one's the rough one.
They lost that one though. Nintendo lost that.
I didn't hear about a lawsuit ever going through for that one.
I don't think it was ever heard.
I thought they did. I thought this was their second strike.
No.
It is. The way I see it is. Once again, Nintendo hasn't lost a lawsuit. Not because they've been lucky in all of them, because they only take the ones they think they can win. Right? They saw something in the fair use category. Well, Japan law, I don't know. So not fair use, but they saw something.
Not fair use.
They saw something in this where they said, we can't win that. There was some seed of doubt that they could lose that, but they are 100% certain now. So I do see it as their second strike, because there is no reason with the amount of stuff that came out that they were considering doing when the game released that they wouldn't have if they thought they could win.
It's gonna totally slip me by, but real quick, there was, if I vaguely recall this, there is a ministry that you have to file copyright with in Japan, and when you do, it goes through every other copyright and basically says, does this match that? Palworld didn't raise any flags.
Which is crazy.
Which is crazy. But that was probably why they didn't get sued for copyright infringement.
Yeah. Because they're only going to take battles they think they can win. Because Nintendo doesn't want the bad press if we lost a lawsuit.
No, they're going to take this bad press instead.
Yeah, but if they win and they have money and they don't have a game that the principles that no one's ripping them off anymore, then they can go to sleep happy.
And then Minecraft is going to take crafting mechanics from everybody.
Woo! Yay. Anyway.
Thanks, Microsoft.
I got a bone to pick with them too recently.
Yeah. Let's get into our real world. We really got to go. This is our real world segment. This is where we talk about things that are happening on in our lives. It could be related to video games. Usually it's not. A lot of times it's movies we're listening to.
Movies we're listening to?
Yeah, we're that crazy. Just things going on in our lives that are just not necessarily related to games. Anything. Yeah. Tyler, what do you got going on?
There was something I was going to mention during the real world, and I can't remember what it was.
Do you want a second? I know Knox is chomping at the bit.
Chomp at the bit.
Sure. I haven't listened to any good movies recently, but I did finally pull the trigger and buy 21 Pilots tickets. Long time coming. I've been basically convincing myself that I was gonna go for so long that I've counted it on my things to do. It was on my calendar, but I finally bought tickets 2 weeks ago. Yay! As I've talked about in past episodes, I'm also really into crocheting. And I have crafted an entire outfit and getup for this thing, so I'm going to show it off now because I'm really proud of it.
Sorry,
to start off, if you're familiar... What?
Sorry, audio listeners.
Yeah, I'll try to describe it. If you're familiar with the Clancy era, we do have the Clancy hat, Clancy beanie, which is very nice. Me and my boyfriend do have matching ones for the concerts.
If you're listening, pull over and pull up the video.
Yeah, it looks sick. So if you're familiar with the Clancy mask, it's like that, but it's not the mask, it's just the beanie. Also, in all of the music videos in Clancy lore, he has a stole that has his name forwards and backwards. So I have made a stole that has Clancy on it. It goes down to about my knees. This took me 15 hours-ish to do. It was awful. One of a kind. I will never do it again, but it's so sick to have now. So they'll have that. I have also constructed my first piece of clothing. I have made a bralette crop top that I will be wearing. Turned out really well. Fits really nice. We love it. It's got an open tie back. Super cute. Super proud of it. My blurry background's really getting in the way of all of this. But yeah, super awesome. Had a good time there. And then what we are finishing up now is over that crop top, there will be flowy sleeves that will go over the top of it. So, show that off. We'll have big, long, flowy bell sleeves to go over the top in the red. Nice. So it's gonna look sick. I'm super stoked. I'm really proud of my crocheting skills. This is going really well. I'm making things that actually fit and look good, which is pretty cool. But I am about probably a third of the way through the second sleeve of 2, and the concert is in 3 days. So we are speeding along to get that finished for Wednesday, but it'll be super fun. I'm super stoked. I'm not gonna shut the fuck up about it when I get back, just so you guys know.
I'm already ready. Get recording of the 2 minutes part before they start.
Will do. My camera's shit, but I'll have to do it.
It's all about the audio.
Bleep that, please. Thanks.
Yeah.
I was really close.
You were really close. We were so close this episode.
Tyler, did you think of it?
Yeah, I remembered.
Okay, go ahead.
JJK ended, and nobody's happy about it because Gege pulled a fast one over us. Without
you did Kaizen for those who don't know the acronym.
Took me a second.
basically on forums, the creator of the manga had been posting things basically being like, I know I've only got like 5 chapters left, but I hope that the ending is a good one and that it puts everyone in a good place before we end. And then he released the final chapter and it was nowhere close to that. And then proceeded to say, fuck you guys. I can't believe you actually believed me and thought that I would bring that piece of shit back after what my wife said about him. I never will. And then it was like, hope you guys follow me along to my next project, which will be nowhere close to Jujutsu Kaisen related.
Bye, Felicia.
Yeah, pretty much. So, and on that note, the D&D Jujutsu Kaisen game I'm building is looking pretty promising now because it'll hopefully bring the hopes up for a lot of people. Other than that, I don't think I really have anything in the real world that's new.
I really have to think.
Yeah.
I have a life up here. It's all work. I watched Agatha all along.
It's so good.
I haven't watched the newest episode, and I feel really
so good.
I feel really awful that I haven't watched episode 3 yet because I actually know somebody who worked on it. Don't worry,
That's so
I
fun.
will. But I did really enjoy the first 2 episodes. Catherine Hahn is an absolute charm as per always, and just kicks some major ass. I want to be like Marvel. We are so back. I'm gonna wait though because
this is barely a Marvel show. This is about witches. We're doing something new. It's so fun.
I do like how this one felt nice in the way that it rewarded you for watching WandaVision and watching
Multiverse of Madness.
Multiverse of Madness, but it didn't feel like by any means any of that was necessary.
I would argue it absolutely was.
I don't feel like it was necessary.
It was, because I did see both of them, and I had to go back and watch a recap of both of them because I had no idea what was going on. I would argue you absolutely needed context.
Huh. Maybe I've just lived in this industry too long.
Especially for, with zero spoilers here, especially
Please.
for the general theories and implications of where this is probably going.
Mm-hmm.
Good Lord, you need a bigger context.
That's a whole separate part, yes. But I did like how there was little things just like poking back.
How do you watch the
the
first episode and think that you don't need to know what happened at the Multiverse of Madness? We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, because it's never explicitly stated.
Yeah, but it's so highly
oh yeah. If you've watched
to.
any of them, you go, oh.
I think that's kind of the point of the Marvel movies, and they've always been, is like you don't need to really watch certain movies, but if you really want to enjoy the movie, you gotta watch the other stuff. Can we talk about Endgame? Or can we talk about Endgame?
It's been 6 years. We can talk about it.
You don't really need to see every single Iron Man movie to really enjoy Endgame.
No.
Specifically the funeral scene. You can go through that whole scene and be like, oh, wow, that's so nice. They created a little monument for him.
And you might go, who the fuck is that little kid?
Yeah, you might. You also might go like, oh, wow, that's cool that they're now saying he has a heart. But that was a reference. That's a reference to the first Iron Man. Yeah. You know, those are like the little things.
And the kid from Iron Man 3 is one of the guys at the funeral.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like
that was one of the most satisfying. That was one of the most satisfying cameos in that movie.
Yeah. Just a tiny little thing too.
Yeah, on screen for maybe 2 seconds.
Yeah.
No speaking role. Just
I remember when it came out, people were like, "Who is he?"
Oh my god, I knew it. I was sitting in the theaters next to my 3 roommates, one of which kind of liked Marvel, 2 of which I had to make a PowerPoint for. before going to see this because they had never seen a Marvel movie in their lives. And I had to explain the entire Infinity Gauntlet to them and everything about it. They're all like, okay, this is crazy, whatever, good movie. I'm sobbing. And then he pops up. Oh my God, it was crazy. I still remember going to see that. That was 6 years ago.
I told my work 2 months ahead of time, or a month ahead of time, whenever tickets went on sale, like the day tickets went on sale. I bought my ticket. I turned to my boss and said, I am leaving work early.
I did the same thing.
This is not this is not a debate. This is not
softball.
I'm not asking permission. I am leaving early.
I guess what year would that was a spring movie. Oh, it would have
Endgame?
been 2019. It's 5 years old. That would have been 2019 it came out.
Endgame?
2019.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2019. I was a freshman in college when it came out.
5 years ago.
Cap.
No, because it
Yes,
was the one
seeing the
year
Thursday
I
night 7
spent
p.m.
at
premiere
yeah, sure did.
in IMAX.
Oh, we went to the Thursday night like 12:30. But
It was 2019.
we have a
Oh,
fun
I
little
guess I was
thing
thinking
in
of-
the Midwest called Marcus Cinemas. Greg Marcus, what a wonderful man. We love him.
I was thinking Infinity War.
They do movie theaters with like seat service, like you can order dinner.
Oh, like dining? Yeah.
Yeah. So we did that whole thing. It was great. I vividly remember that night from and that was 5.5 years ago. So, but anyway, no.
If we had more time, I'd want to talk about drive-ins because it seems like those are a thing that are dead right now, and
they are.
I miss them. Oh,
They'll
they're
come
so
back.
fun.
I've never been to one.
Yeah, come visit me because there's one actually by me, and it's one of the only
Sick.
ones I know of.
There's one near me too, but I've heard sketchy things happen there, so we don't go.
I mean, they can be, but it's
Oklahoma has a couple. The ones that are still
That
standing
doesn't
after
shock me.
tornadoes. We had
Yeah,
a lot more, but then tornadoes happened.
Yeah.
separate issue.
At least
Anyway.
we don't have hurricanes.
Zach, take
Sure.
us away.
We should wrap it up. Where the hell are my notes? Thank you everyone for joining us. Hope you enjoyed our discussion today. We release these episodes weekly, but if that's not often enough for you, come join us in our Discord. That link's down on the doobly-doo, and we are there way too much. If you have any thoughts you want to share on the show, you can also comment, but you can also come talk to us in the Discord. You can share your thoughts with us, even if you just think we sound like a cool group of people. We're around.
Yeah, and if you come join us, tell us that you're coming from the podcast too, so we know.
Yeah, we'd
Please.
love
Say
to
hi.
talk to you more about it. Knox, Taco, thank you guys so much for joining me this night. I know this was a late episode.
12 o'clock at
we
night.
I don't have
pushed
to work
through.
tomorrow.
Yeah, we
Holy
pushed
shit.
through a lot, but
Well,
it also
fuck
seems
it.
like we had a good discussion about it. I hope you guys agree. And thank you to everyone at home. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
I got them both up.
That's what she said.